Several weeks ago, the Ahmed Kathrada Foundation convened the Johannesburg Crisis Forum. Now, the forum is a racially and socio-economically diverse group of people hell-bent on tackling challenges facing the Metro municipality. Chief among these challenges are ailing infrastructure, water and energy, corruption and monitoring the city's budget. For more on this, we are now joined by Ahmed Kathrada Foundation Director Neeshan Balton. Mr. Balton, thank you so much for joining us this evening. Now, Johannesburg is one of the oldest, or rather youngest major cities in comparison to cities such as London and Rome, who go way back as far as 2,000 years. Now, when can we say the decay of this world-class city began?
No, it would be very difficult to answer that. I think because the decay would have started in different areas at different times. For many, it would have started at the onset of democracy, where resources had to be moved to areas that were underprivileged, underdeveloped. And what we are really saying is that today, whether it's a rich or poor area in the city, whether it's an old or new establishment, almost every street has the same set of issues of street lights not working, traffic lights not working, potholes that don't get repaired, water that leaks for days and days, electricity outages that don't get responded to. And as a result, you just have a sense of an overall decay of infrastructure and a poorer quality of service delivery compared to years ago. And that, I think, is the common experience across the length and breadth of the city of Johannesburg today.
I mean, a few weeks ago, the AKF held discussions to find a way forward and to come up with solutions to these challenges plaguing the city. What were some of the main standouts? I mean, you are mentioning potholes and the lack of electricity, but out of that group, what was it that they vented the most about in terms of what they were suffering with in their city?
A couple of things. We convened this meeting saying that, and the invitation was the city in crisis, what is the role of civil society and the residents of Johannesburg. We went into the meeting, firstly, trying to get a common understanding of the nature of this crisis, and secondly, how the crisis impacted upon the people across the city, and those are the issues that I've highlighted. I think what's come out is that in every community, almost in every street, there are chat groups, neighborhood groups, ratepayer, residents associations, concerned committees who are trying to respond to the issues that they're dealing with. But many of these are done in a way that they're not connected. And what we learned there is that people are facing the same issues, adopting different approaches, and fighting the same bureaucracy and experiencing the same kind of level of either not being listened to or very delayed responses. And that was one of the big issues, was that we don't know what the levels of service delivery standards are that you can be used to measure the city. In some areas, water leaks would get responded to within 24 hours. In others, it would take weeks, if not months. And this is, it would be one city administration, not being run by different political. The city is not run by different political parties in different parts of the city. So that was the one set of issues. The second set of issues is really the lack of communication and timeless communication. The third would be the participatory channels that are meaningful beyond the ward committees. While people appreciate the ward committees, they felt that it was not sufficiently strong enough to hold the politicians and the administration accountable to deal with the issues that they were all experiencing. I think lastly is the sense that governance in the city has been badly affected by the changing coalitions, changing leadership, and what the result is that it has administrative instability that I think people in their homes and in their areas get impacted on, because accountability then becomes a nightmare to figure out who's responsible for what. And I think that those were the key issues that really emerged from here.
And I mean, speaking of that lack of accountability, I mean, the lack of stability in leadership in the city has proven to be a hindrance with 4 mayors in 2 years. Do you believe that we've passed that leadership hurdle and that as a city we've stabilized, and with the current leaders, do they inspire enough confidence to turn Johannesburg around?
Again, I mean, if you take the Bree Street problem that we all saw recently, in the initial periods, the leadership was very lacking. I'm very happy that today, as we speak, there is a sense of some technical leadership that's being displayed. And that's really what I think we hope would be experienced across the length and breadth of the city on all the issues that are there. But I think it's short term, because this is a real crisis issue that has national and international focus. There have been calls recently for new votes of no confidence, and the coalition is fragile. The ANC, some in the ANC are talking of not working with the EFF, which could then break the coalition itself. And it is a fragile coalition that I think would end at any given time, which I think then takes us back to the heightened instability. Not that I think there isn't instability at this point in time.
I mean, we're also seeing a growing urge, or are we seeing a growing urge of communities that are actively looking to participate in ensuring that Johannesburg is taken back to its heydays?
Well, I'm not sure about the heydays of Johannesburg. For many, the heydays was actually Johannesburg wasn't a very good place for them to live in. But I think post-democracy, there were periods where the city had a clear vision, it had a plan, it had leadership that inspired confidence, it had ways of communication that heightened participation of people, and you had a sense of delivery happening across the length and breadth of the city. You didn't have freeways and streets that we have now, where traffic lights and street poles are there like limping soldiers, if not fallen soldiers, scattered across the length and breadth of the freeways. So there is that yearning for a city that works for everybody, a city that makes it possible for people to live, to trade, to do business, and to go about in a much more safer environment to contribute to the functioning and the well-being of the city. I think what people really are wanting now is different forms of being involved and being taken more seriously before we get to the point where residents in Durban and other areas are at this point in time where there's huge discussions about race boycott. We think that those actions, at least in Johannesburg for now, are not where we need to go to, but are certainly ones that I think people will think about if the situation doesn't improve.
So, Mr. Balton, out of the Crisis Forum, when you got together with these people from Johannesburg, what solutions did you come up with? Things that were tangible, that people could start as soon as tomorrow in ensuring that Johannesburg is in the hands of those who live in it and enjoy the city for what it's meant to be?
Now, that was the one thing we started off at the meeting, was that we were not going to find overnight solutions to this problem. Secondly, we saw this as the start of an initiative of getting people together, firstly, to understand the nature of the problem, to understand just how everybody is affected by it, and then to start a process of contributing towards a range of ideas that they themselves would want to act on. So that the convening that we had 3 weeks ago was the start of many. What will follow now is meetings with different sectors in the city, the professionals, the academics, the cultural groups, the faith communities, young people, and then we would be going back to a much more bigger convening of residents and ratepayers association, and to present back to them all of the ideas that have come from all of the engagements that we've undertaken. We do not want to rush into the establishment of any coalition or network or citywide initiative until such time that I think we've brought together the widest range of people, rich, poor, black and white, north, south, east and west of the city, because ultimately it is people of this city that must find the solutions and be able to act on the solutions that they think are appropriate to deal with the problems. We would also, in the meanwhile, begin to talk to the political entities of the city to understand in much more depth the range of the issues. And I think within a space of 3 to 4 months, we would then be able to emerge with a better understanding of the depth of the problem and the range of solutions. And out of this meeting, there were a set of possibilities that emerged. One, there was a very strong view that we need to lobby for the city to be placed under administration. Two, that we needed to push for it to be dissolved and for new elections to be called. And thirdly was to look at models of co-governance, of people co-governing the city with those of political parties and so forth. But each of those need to be explored, the implications understood, and then look at the kinds of actions that would be required to achieve the kinds of objectives or solutions that people think are the most appropriate.
All right, Mr. Balton, thank you so much for your time this evening. We certainly hope that those efforts towards making Johannesburg a city that is once, like you say, maybe not to its heydays, but a city that many could be proud to be living in. That was Mr. Neeshan Balton, a director at the Ahmed Kathrada Foundation.